What is going on, YouTubers? Here bringing you guys another Digimon card game match. Today it is myself on the left. I am playing Blue Hybrids, the list that I posted on the channel with some sideboard changes. And then on the right I am playing a friend of mine who is playing Yellow Hybrids on the right. Just as a preface on this one, there is quite a decent amount of camera shake, unfortunately. I tried a different camera layout to get a little bit more quality on it, but unfortunately it does cause some shaking on the screen. So I do have to apologize in advance. I'll try to adjust it. I couldn't really get some good stabilization on it, so there is some wobbliness. There's a decent amount of wobbliness because of how the camera was set up this time, so I do apologize in advance. So onto the gameplay, I do start off with the Syakomon in the back and then start with the Bokomon on the field to search, dig a little bit, grab a tamer, grab a hybrid, and my opponent goes into the Zoe, not grabbing a tamer, I believe, and then following it up with a Kari, passing me back to 3 memory. So here, I just decided to go ahead, memory choke him a little bit, set up my tamer for the following plays. While my opponent trying to decide what he's going to do. If he digivolves on top of the tamer, then he doesn't have to worry about me getting the memory, and he does kind of choke me a little bit, makes the security a little bit bigger. Passing the turn back over, choking me at 1 because he does have a Digimon with sources. Here I digivolve into the Strabimon in the back, digivolve into the Kumamon, strip the source so I don't have to worry about the inherit, although I'm not usually worried about that in this matchup. I'm usually going to crash in anyway. But it does strip the source, keeps my Sworjo alive, and it also makes it so where he doesn't get the free Evo on top with the Zephyrmon, or the Jet Sylphimon I should say. And he just follows it up with another Zoe play, failing to find anything that he wants to take, passing that turn back over to me. So we raise up into Strabimon. Here, I do play this game a little cautious, I believe, because I'm trying not to activate too many things. I decided to go ahead and digivolve into the Korikakumon to freeze the Jet Sylphimon, swinging it, hitting another Zoe. Zoe's not really too bad, but I'm always afraid that I'm going to hit something like a TK Kari, and then always that's going to be active, and he's going to gain a whole bunch of memory, or a TK, which is always not good. And then here we swing in, freeze the Zephyrmon with the Korikakumon, swing in with the Strabimon, get a draw since he doesn't have any sources, playing the Tommy, passing his turn back over. This sets me up for following turns. At this point, I can tell my opponent doesn't really have the best hand, but I do pass him over to 3, or I pass him over to 1. He forgets about the Jet Sylphie effect. He does still get the recovery because he does have a hybrid in it, but he doesn't get to pay the reduced memory cost. So at this point, I do start at 2, so he does keep me a little bit choked. He doesn't give me as much memory, but I do digivolve into the Strabi in the back, and here I'm kind of thinking about what I'm going to do. Swing the Korikakumon, stripping the source, and then drawing off of Upa just to get a little bit more cycle. Korikakumon does live. We go into the Tommy, digivolve into another Korikakumon, basically free off the Bokomon since the Gazi is in the trash, not on the field, freezing the Zephyrmon, swinging in with the Strabimon to get another draw, and here he does decide to leave the Korikakumon with the Tommy underneath, so he doesn't have to worry about the consistent Tommy lock that he can put down. And then here he suspends the Kari to gain a memory off of the security check. I decide to spark up. He doesn't have a memory tamer, so I spark up again, going up to 3, playing the Sworjo. Might be a little aggressive to play 2 sparks early on, but it's nice to have 2 Sworjo set up and more tamers to go into for later in the game. So my opponent passes over. I did hit that reinforced memory boost, so he does have a decent amount of memory. I'm not currently running any memory blockers there in the sideboard of this. You don't always need them for every single matchup, but I don't usually mainboard him. Usually Syakomon comes up more often, so I am kind of worried about the memory boost. I choke him at 1 as best as possible, but he does have access to the memory boost to maybe do some more plays, play a TK, or maybe just go up into another big Digimon or go up into his hybrid. So here, that's what he does. He goes into the Zephyrmon, giving his security a bunch more, +3, I believe, swinging over the Strabimon, getting rid of bodies on the field. The Jet Sylphimon still cannot swing, so there's a good chance that he's going to try to go on top of it to try to limit exactly. Here he plays the Dynasmon to try to limit the amount of sources he has, so I don't gain a whole bunch of memory off of the Sworjo. And here he reveals only taking the 2 only targets, which are the Serafimon and the Rise Greymon. So over at 2, I raise up the Strabimon. I do have the Korikakumon, but I don't have the Tommy underneath, so he doesn't have to worry about constant locking, but I can go ahead and strip the source underneath one of the Digimon when I swing with Korikaku. I'm going to choose the Jet Sylphimon just so I don't have to worry about the tamer. or the Easy Evo and draw a card, I do hit another Digimon out of security, or Jet Sophimon out of security. Deleting the Korikakumon, it was already big enough because of the original Zephyrmon Evo, and then the second check on the Strabimon, getting another draw, hits the Wyvern Breath, so he does clear the Bokomon off the field. So I don't get a free Evo here, can't quite push for game. I am 2 Hammer Sparks down, but I do decide to play a little aggressive, drop another Hammer Spark, and here I'm trying to decide, do I go ahead and, he's already gonna, I don't think I have a good way to set him to 3, other than maybe dropping a Tommy, but I feel it's a good time to go ahead and play a Davis, cycle a little bit more, find a, maybe find another rookie or more hybrids, something else I can use, and also get my memory tamer set up. There, unfortunately, I do hit the 4th Hammer Spark, so my opponent now knows that there's no Hammer Sparks to deal with. If he's been keeping count, he can always look at the trash, but this passes the turnover. He does have the Gazimon and Raising, and trying to decide what he wants to do. Counting his secured, or counting his trash, he's probably, there's a good chance the Susanoo-amon possibly coming up into the following plays, trying to put some pressure on. It would pass me to a lot of memory, but it is a thought now that he has started counting his security or his tamers and hybrids and trash, that there is a good chance that that might be coming in future turns. But even though he might want to do the Susanoo-amon play, he does also not want to give me a whole bunch of memory. So here the Jet Sophimon swings in, hoping it dies more than likely so he doesn't have to gain the memory. He probably doesn't want to Evo on top of it because he can't quite get the most benefit out of it, but he does Digivolve the Zephyrmon on top of the Zoe, getting a little bit of chip, taking out my other Digimon that I had on field, swinging in with the Dynasmon, hitting another Davis, unfortunately for him, getting a little bit more cycle on my end, and then Digivolving on top for the Jet Sophimon for 1 to get the recovery and add back, and I will go to 7 memory. So here at this point, even though he's passed me over to 7 memory, I do have to be very careful about what I do. There's going to be a little cut here because I did think a lot right here, because while I also have potential game on board, I don't think I have enough hybrids in hand to possibly clear the board out, but I have to try to figure out a way to not die this turn. So here I go ahead, I Digivolve into the Korikakumon. You saw I got that off of the Davis earlier, and I swing in over the Jet Sophimon that has sources, and then bounce back or crash into the Jet Sophimon, bouncing back the Zephyrmon, playing the Tommy, stripping the 2 sources underneath the Dynasmon, and then Digivolving into the Korikakumon that I bounced back to freeze it off of Korikakumon's effect. So now, while I am a little bit more set up for the game, Dynasmon is still a threat to kind of have to deal with, because it does mean I have multiple security to deal with, but it also means I'm probably going to go up to 7 memory consistently unless he Digivolves on top of it. The Dynasmon is frozen here, so the Gazimon's the only thing that he can swing in. My opponent clearly had bad luck trying to find his TK Karis and his TKs. At this point, I don't think he has seen any, so that has really slowed down his plays. He doesn't quite get the memory gain he wants to, not that he would really be able to gain the memory off of TK Kari currently, since we're both at 2 security, but he would be able to benefit from the memory gain from the TK. So here my opponent does go ahead, start counting the Digimon, or counting the Tamers and Hybrids. I do remind him that he does have to go ahead and reveal the Susanoo-amon. I already know he has it in hand, but that is a thing that has to happen, because technically you can reveal it and then not Digivolve into it. But what he does is he goes ahead, he pays the 7 memory, passes me to 6, Digivolves into the Susanoo-amon, takes care of the Korikakumon just to have it dealt with, and then because of the Sorajos and his Dynasmon without sources, I do gain more, going up to 10. You'll see there that he accidentally threw them all in trash. We correct that issue pretty quickly, and he bottom decks them. He puts them in a specific order just in case he needs to see them. But so I raise up the Strabi here, trying to decide. I think I have game. He's given me the world to work with, so if I may not quite have it, but I Digivolve the Sorajo into Lobomon, Digivolve into the Beowulfmon, so now I have a way to bounce the Gazimon back. Again, I'm out of Hammer Sparks at this point, but there's effects like Koji and stuff that require me having that allow me to gain memory, which Gazimon does stop. So here I'm trying to think about if I want to go into the Magna Garurumon, but at the same time, if I have Koji, I have plenty of cards in hand. At this point, the game has gone on quite a while, so we've drawn plenty of cards. I've tried to keep the amount of cards I have set up, and here I do go ahead, decide to prep the Koji. You see me there looking at the Magna Garurumon in hand. I do decide to go ahead, activate his effect, tucking underneath the Magna Garurumon, the Beowulfmon. I think that's the Strabimon that gives memory, just a basic Strabimon, and then I think I only have one other one, which is the Lobomon in my hand. So here I while this Koji can't swing, it does still get the effect when I Digivolve into Magna Garurumon. So I do Digivolve into it. It's on Digivolve and on attack. So I bounce the Magna back to my hand that I tucked underneath sources to bounce his Dynasmon. So now I don't have to worry about the Dynasmon keeping the checks under control. Here I do try to gain a memory off of Koji's effect. We get corrected. I had forgotten about the Gazimon, but we do go ahead and bottom deck the Gazimon. I had already activated the effect, it just wasn't able to resolve, so I don't get to gain the memory off of Beowulfmon's effect. So I try to correct it, but then I think I end up deciding to take it back. So here we'll go ahead and swing in. We'll still bounce the Gazimon with Beowulfmon's effect, swing in with the Strabimon, checking his last security, and here I just decide to confirm that there's no way I can lose this game. I play the 1-up Ice Wall. I don't think there's any way I get out of it, even if I do pass him to more than 1 memory. But passing him at 1 memory, I have Magna, which has potential 2 swings on board. I have 2 Tamers. I have the Beowulfmon. Even if he swings in, checks all the security, there's nothing he can do to check. I don't believe this list runs the Blinding Ray, and he does in fact hit the 2, and then that'll pretty much end the game. We will go on to game 2. So on to game 2, we do have the mulligan rule instated in this, and the sideboard. I can't remember if I mulligan for this game, but I do side in a few cards. It will come up this game. I think I side in 1 or 2 cards, but we'll get to those when that shows up. So here my opponent has pretty good turn 1 play for yellow hybrids. He decides to go ahead and play the TK. So now he has his Memory Tamer set up, and then I have probably one of my better turn 1 plays, which is Rookie and back Bokomon for a little bit of search. Here grabbing the Tommy, and then play a quote-unquote Memory Tamer in Sora Joe, passing him back to his 3. So here my opponent plays Zoe. Pretty common play. You want to make sure you can find all your hybrids. Running only level 4 hybrids as your level 4s is the very crux part of the deck, because you have to be able to see them, and Zoe and TK really help facilitate that. And here, more than likely going to Digivolve into the Kazemon so that he can keep me a little bit lower on memory. If he plays anything else, he's going to pass me to a little bit more memory. So this way he keeps me as little memory as he possibly can. So I raise up the Strabimon, play a Hammer Spark, play a little aggressive with it so I can gain the memory to play a Tommy, strip the sources. This activates Kiaramon to draw me another card, since a source was stripped on my opponent's side of the field. And then because of Bokomon, I can Digivolve into Korikakumon for free, freezing the Kazemon. So now I have a little bit more room to work with. He's going to go to 3 anyway. I figured 4 is not too bad to pass him over with. So I just decided to play another Sora Joe. If he doesn't do anything with his Kazemon, then he has to constantly worry about it giving me plenty of resources. So this kind of forces my opponent to either Digivolve on top with a Zephyrmon, which lowers his chances of playing his level 3 or level 4 hybrids, which he does, and then also he can go into the Jet Sylphimon, making it so that he gains he doesn't get to get the cheat in because he doesn't have the source underneath from the Zoe that I stripped earlier. But my opponent does have the TK and Kari, so he's able to memory choke me at 1, which is pretty good use of memory for him. I'm Digivolving into the Beowulfmon, go to 0, so I can make a little bit of use out of my memory. Here I'm trying to decide if I want to go ahead and activate the effect of Beowulfmon to swing, because if I do swing and bounce the Zephyrmon, he gets it back to hand, but at the same time, it also activates his TK and Kari, so he was going to go up to 5 as long as I don't pass him over the more than 3. But here, I think I do end up thinking I need to recycle the Korikakumon back to my hand, so I swing in, strip the sources. This activates the effect of Kiaramon to draw me a card, and then activate the effect of Korikakumon to add this to my hand, bouncing back the Zephyrmon so I don't get full effect of the Tommy. Hitting a Gazimon, even with the buff of Zephyrmon, since it didn't have the Zoe underneath, I do survive. It is only 5k. So at this point, I'm trying to decide what I want to do. I still haven't used Bokomon's effect, so I believe I go ahead and Digivolve the Sora Joe. While it does lose me a Memory Tamer, I do get to have another body on field and get a little bit more cycle in, and then just decide to go ahead and play another Bokomon, revealing 4 Strabimon and a Koji, so I automatically have to take the Koji, but now I have to decide which Strabimon I need. Knowing that I have the Koji, I'm not 100% sure if I want to take the Strabimon that searches for him, but at the same time, it does let me play him for free, so I do decide to go ahead and take it over the BT4 and the BT7 or BT6 Strabimon. But as I stated before, since I do have more security than my opponent and he has TK, I'm going to pass him to 3 with the Boko, and then he will go up to 5 with the TK and Kari, and here he capitalizes a little bit, plays the Zoe, looks at his security, tries to see if he wants to grab anything, either doesn't find a target or decides he does not want to grab a card. But at this point, I'm kind of expecting a Schwarz to come out. He does have the purple egg in the back, he does have 3 Tamers, so he can clear a decent chunk of my board, and with only 1 Tamer on field, it would kind of hurt to have the Schwarz come down. That would pass me over to 4, which isn't too bad, but at the same time, I do have to, don't want to have the entire field cleared. Digivolves the Zoe into the Zephyrmon, getting the security buff, getting the draw, digivolving into the Jet Sylphimon, and again choking me at 1. So keeps my security count up, keeps the security count up, but at the same time doesn't pass me over to too much memory. So here, my opponent passes me to 1. I digivolve into the Strabimon in the back. This is, like I said, a good way to play the Koji out for free, just in case I swing in and it dies. But there are a lot of things that can remove it. At the same time, there are a lot of things that it can keep it from dying. So, but it's good to have in raising just in case I want to digivolve on top of it. But here, I swing in with the Beowulfmon using Sorjo to strip the 2 sources and freeze the Jet Sylphimon with Tommy's effect, hitting into a Wyvern's Breath. So with the Wyvern's Breath out, I have drawn off the Kiaramon onto the Strabimon, so I guess my opponent decides to go ahead and take out the Lobomon. That way I don't have to worry, he doesn't have to worry about a free Beowulfmon coming out for 1 memory. But I do digivolve my last Tamer into another Lobomon, and because of the 2 Bokomon, effectively gaining 2 memory on digivolve. So now that I'm at 3 memory, I decided to go ahead and drop the Tommy. That way I can go up to, I can have a Tamer set up for the following turns, and I hear a Hammer Spark up to 1. You're going to see a little misplay here where I forget that I actually activate the Hammer Spark. I know it just happened, but we had a bunch of security checks and a bunch of effects to resolve, as you can see, hitting a TK and a Kari, where we forget that it was activated this turn, and actually my opponent will end up going to 8 memory at the end of this turn. I don't think it affects the board state or the game state in the long run, but I will mention that misplay currently. Here we go ahead, we're talking about the effect, and we I reveal off to the top that I have the Magna and the Kumamon, and here's where I guess I forget that I played it. I'm not exactly sure what happened here, but my opponent is set to 8 at this point when he should be set at 7. Again, I don't think it affects the game state too much, but onward and upwards, we have the Magna, the Kumamon, and the Sorjo here. I decide to end up taking the Magna. I think I have 1 Magna in hand, and I know I already have the Koji in hand. So this way it sets me up, if he has a level 6 that I have trouble dealing with, I can potentially bounce it and not have to deal with it anymore, such as like a Dynasmon or something like that, that really is going to hamper my game state. And keep me from really pushing for game. But instead, my opponent here does have the Shine Greymon, suspending all 4 Tamers, and now has to decide what exactly he wants to take out with the Neg 12 that he can, or Neg 16 that he can effectively use. Now, since the DP on my field is kind of not ideal for a Shine Greymon because it's Neg 4 each time for each Tamer, he can only effectively take out 3 things. He can only take out like the Beowulf and 2 rookies, or the Lobo and 2 rookies, or 3 rookies, and he can't swing over it with anything this turn, but he decides to go ahead and take out the Boko and the Lobomon. So now he doesn't have to worry about, again, another cheap Evo Beowulfmon on the field, but my opponent does digivolve in the TK into a Zephyrmon. He couldn't do the DP reduction and then go into something else and swing over something for like the Beowulfmon with a lower level, because he did have to suspend all of his Digimon to activate Shine Greymon. But here he does digivolve into the Jet Sylphimon into the Dynasmon, and we do kind of catch a little mishap here where we don't get the recovery from the Jet Sylphimon. I tell him that if he hasn't recovered, then it is the card he just drew for the Jet Sylphimon, or the Dynasmon would be the recovery card. So in the long run, it doesn't end up mattering if he saw it or not, because it does get trashed off of the Dynasmon effect. Here he takes a Kazimon and his sideboard tech, the Neo Devimon, for the Tamer matchup. At this point, I don't actually have game, because I do effectively have to swing 5 times because of the Dynasmon, so I'm trying to think about how I'm going to deal with the Dynasmon. Now, if you saw the tech earlier in the game from my sideboard, I do Hammer Spark up, go to 4. The Shine Greymon only has 1 source underneath, and here I decide to go ahead and drop Siaryu, the Azulongmon, the big boy, who is 13k. He strips 1 source underneath all of them for every Digimon that has no sources at the end of his Digivolution. He gains a memory. The big thing here is he's 13k. This lets me get over the Dynasmon, so now I don't have to worry about Dynasmon's effect. Sure, I miss out on some extra security checks, but now I don't have to deal with Dynasmon coming down constantly or using his effect to keep on recovering, and I can go ahead and get the draw off of the Upamon here with the Strabimon, get some extra checks in, do hit a Zoe, doesn't add anything, either fails to find or doesn't have anything he wants to add, swinging in the Strabimon, it does unfortunately die. I have no sources to strip, so I'm like, I might as well swing it in, hits one of his other Neo Devimons that he's clearly teched in, and here he's already going to go up to plenty of memory because of the 2 TK Karis and his current TK, so I digivolve into the Korikakumon to freeze the Shine Greymon so I don't have to worry about it swinging over my Azulongmon. So at this point, my opponent has kept a really good pace of keeping his security up so that I couldn't quite go for game, but at the same time, he hasn't done any damage. I've kept his board pretty much locked down or being able to swing over it and deal with his board constantly. But here, he does have the Gazimon. He has plenty of cards in trash at this point. The Gazimon does have the Xiaomon inherit underneath, so he does have retaliation on his turn. So there's a good chance the Azulongmon dies, because at this point, if he doesn't get any recovery, I have 4 swings on board effectively, 2 from the hybrids, and the 2 from the hybrids, 2 from the Azulongmon, as long as the Shine doesn't have a source, and then the Davis. But here, since I did have to pass him to 7, he does have the Schwarz to wipe out the rest of my board, and then the one thing he can't wipe out, he decides to swing into with the Gazimon, effectively clearing my board at the same time. He does still have the Shine, but remember the Shine can't swing, and now if he wants to Digivolve one of his Tamers, he does have to pass me to 3 memory. But at this point, my board is empty. He does only have 1 security, but I'm still in a good point where I have 5 security. So here my opponent trying to decide what he wants to do. You see the Bokomon, so maybe he's thinking about passing me over to just the 3 memory instead of the Bokomon for previous turns, but we did see him grab the Neo Devimon earlier, which he does decide to drop down. So right now my board doesn't look quite too threatening. The only thing I have is the Davis, and now if he plays if I play any Tamer, I go and I just lose 3 memory as well, or he basically gains the memory. So if I play a Tamer at even the 3 cost Koji, it will put me back to 0. So here I'm looking at my hand, and I do notice that there is a level 4 hybrid, a Beowulfmon, and a Magna. I do have a Hammer Spark too, so if any of you have ever played this deck, you kind of see the line where I'm going at. You Digivolve another Kumamon here, no sources to strip, which isn't really the issue. Really, I just need the level 4 hybrid, so I can Digivolve on top of it to the Beowulfmon, passing me over to 3 only for 1, and then I Hammer Spark up to 4. Here's where I play a little risky. I should just Digivolve at this point into the Magna, but I swing in with the Beowulfmon, and the Beowulf doesn't die. If I would have played it a little safer, Digivolve into the Magna first, then I wouldn't have to worry as much about the Beowulf dying, and then I do Digivolve into it, add the card back, restand, and swing for game. So that'll be the match, guys. This match was the first round of our Steel Fox Locals had a tournament where we played a 1/3 case tournament. Basically, top 4 got a box, and the top 8 got playmats, and the champion got another champion mat and a placard. I had to post this match. This was only the first round, but it was just a good match. It showed off how strong blue hybrids can be. Even though yellow hybrids isn't really a loss matchup or a win matchup, it really shows you how you have to play very carefully around the hybrid meta, around yellow hybrids, because they do have plenty of ways to recover up, keep the damage under control on your end, also putting on some pressure. In that last game, he wasn't quite able to put the pressure as I was able to remove it, but at the same time, being able to constantly deal with the board and keep it frozen is really the saving grace of what blue can do against a lot of these matchups. If they're not able to fully pull off the OTK, sometimes it is a very strong thing just constantly be able to freeze everything. And the Azulongmon and the sideboard is definitely a must that I think everybody needs to try if they don't have it in the main. If you're not going to main Azulong, which is very much possible, then definitely putting it in the sideboard, because as you can see, it really put in a lot of work, especially being able to swing over some pesky 12Ks that the rest of the deck can't quite get over without crashing. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. If you did enjoy, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We will have more Digimon matches and deck profiles coming to the channel. I'm also going to have some more content, some different content other than this coming out that I hope you guys will enjoy that's in the works. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, guys, until next time, be sure to subscribe, like the video, comment down below if you have any questions or any plays that I did or anything like that. And until next time, stay safe, have a good one.